What are Warren Buffett's two new major investments? Who controls the Bitcoin market? What car brand is going fully electric? And 17 more. What's up, everyone? Welcome to Budgets and Brews Morning Coffee Break, where we discuss, chat, and ramble about last week's top 20 financial headlines.
Today is February 21st, 2021. Let's get that coffee out and start brewing those hot headlines.
And you can watch these episodes on YouTube if you're currently listening via podcast. We're going to discuss our top 10 favorites, and then we're going to go ahead and list out the remaining 10, and we will link all of these in our show notes as well, in case you want a more in-depth dive. Headline number 1, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway Incorporated announced two major new investments. What are they? Well, an $8.6 billion investment in Verizon and a $4.1 billion in oil company Chevron. Tony, what's going on with that? Are you following his path? Are you gonna invest in these companies too?
Well, I always pay attention when you see someone like Warren Buffett making big investments, and the fact that he's going into Verizon is really no surprise to me. I think Verizon is kind of like global leader of the wireless, cell phone industry type thing. They're a big name, at least in the U.S. And Chevron investing in the oil company, I don't know, maybe because oil's been doing really bad and prices are really low right now. I don't think oil is going away, right? I think we can all agree that a lot of vehicles are moving toward EV and things like that, but perhaps Berkshire Hathaway found that this is a good investment opportunity to get in while the price is low and then wait for that kind of rebound spike. So I always pay attention.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah,
I was thinking maybe it's one of those a buying option for him where he's like, okay, it's tanking. Let's go ahead and eat this up. And in the news, all you hear electric this, electric that. So it's a strange investment. Ooh, I'm going to go ahead and put some stock in here. But as we also noted from looking up some headlines too, that the stock gains, they're going to add about 35 points to the Dow's price. That was sort of after, these large stakes were purchased, which was pretty interesting as well. So obviously throwing more money into there, more money in the market, go ahead and ups the Dow price. But if I'm someone who's looking, well, once again, I hate stock investing. Mm-hmm. Would I splash some of these in a portfolio? If I had my buckets full, maybe I would. And maybe I would because we talked about this in one of our episodes actually that will be coming out in gamification. But when you actually start looking at the social component, there are now apps out there that you can track professional amateur investments or investors, and you could mirror their moves. Well, I don't think Warren Buffett is an amateur, right?
No,
so I would say he's almost a professional. So if you want to jump on that bandwagon, you might say, okay, well, I'll throw a couple $100 here and see what happens. I mean, he is one of the top players of the game, so a good place to mirror. But not until your other buckets are full. Yeah. Then I would say, sure, do whatever you want. And what's number 2? What's headline number 2?
But number 2, we have about 2,500 people control 40% of the Bitcoin market. That's approximately $240 billion. This is per the news outlet, The Telegraph. These are called Bitcoin whales, and they potentially have the ability to manipulate the cryptocurrency markets by making big moves with the large percentage of the market shares that they own. They can really influence the price of Bitcoin. So how do you feel about that, Rich?
Well, I mean, I think it's expected to see that and to see where Bitcoin is now from where it was. And I say that because when we all first started off, nobody knew about Bitcoin. They're like, it's a risk, it's a gamble. And some people still aren't convinced. Sure. And you see the reason why the price, the share is moving up and up, and I guess not the share, but the market, the value of what a Bitcoin is now is going up and up, is because of these people that are backing it. And when you have someone like Tesla, who just purchased what it was 1.5 billion in there, and then you have MasterCard and you have JP Morgan, you have all these people who are now starting to buy up Bitcoin and really believe in it. You need those big players to buy big chunks in order to, I would say, throw a sense of security and safety for others like you and I, the little people out there in the world. Because if those corporations didn't buy that in there, then I'm not going to do it because it doesn't
what
show
is
strength.
Bitcoin
It doesn't
still
show
would be where it was
safety
at, yeah.
and security. Unless you're somebody who's constantly looking in the news, reading about Bitcoin 24/7, you might know the inner workings behind it. But if you're just an everyday person like you and I, when someone makes a power move like that, that shows me a little bit of that safety. I'm like, maybe that is a real thing. Maybe that is something I should invest in for the future because I see it growing. So it's sort of actually, when you start to break it down like that, it makes sense that you have a lot of these 2,500 people that own most of that market in there.
Yeah, about 40%. And, in other news, Bitcoin did cross 57,000 as the price per Bitcoin, setting an all-time high and igniting a cryptocurrency rally. So some of the other cryptocurrencies are also kind of following that spike up, riding Bitcoin's trails, so to speak.
Right.
What do you got next for us, Rich?
Headline number 3, Jaguar, the luxury British car brand, said it's going fully electric by 2025, which
surprise.
I thought was, that's a big move for, what year is it? 2021? I mean, come on, you're going to go full electric by then. So I thought for sure, I'm like, something had it, and their parent company is probably pronouncing this wrong, but Tata Motors, Tata, I don't know, Motors, they own Jaguar Land Rover. And so we ended up checking their stock to be like, hey, was there any movement? And I guess there was, like that day that it sort of released that news, there was like a little peak, a little spike that they shot up, because I was like, that's obviously good news. Like electric vehicles, that's like the next biggest thing to take your fleet all. But then all of a sudden we saw a little trickle down effect. After that.
Yeah, it's like the whole week it's kind of been on a downward trend. When that news did come out, it did spike a little bit, but they also released that they laid off 2,000 jobs globally. Jaguar Land Rover did. And then also Tata Motors did say that Jaguar Land Rover aims to become a net zero carbon business by 2039. So they are really making a commitment, at least from a headline standpoint, to really go to into the EV market and kind of like follow the trend we've been seeing through automotive.
Yeah. And we do want to use this time just briefly to show you our weekly calendar. On Monday, we do have the morning coffee break you're listening to now. That's the top 20 finance headlines. Bi-weekly on Wednesday, we have our personal finance deep dive, where we take a personal finance topic and we dive into it. And we try to bring some guests on the show. Friday, our new Finance Friday. So that is our freaky fast finance tip that's going to be thrown at you. And then bi-weekly on Saturday are our beer reviews, and all that can be found at our budgetsandbrews.com website. Number 4, Walmart will receive 20% of all COVID-19 vaccine doses sent to pharmacies by the government, because the majority of its stores are located in areas where there's limited healthcare resources. I thought this was interesting. I mean, 20% of all the like, what does that do? Like, who cares about the news? Like, they're great. They have that. Well, yes, that's good. And they're doing that because it's going to help the community where there's not as many, healthcare facilities. That's good. But also, what does it do? It gets people in the door to Walmart. And I think it's a huge, major marketing, I wouldn't say tactic, but just opportunity for Walmart right now. Because what happens once you get in that door? Then you're going to start seeing other things. You're going to shop, and
maybe they see us bump up in sales, because
exactly. So I think that's a big move for Walmart.
Yeah, I mean, this is significant, right? The federal government is saying, okay, Walmart, you have the infrastructure, you have the resources. We're going to give you 1/5 of our COVID vaccines. I mean, that's huge for Walmart. So I'm assuming Walmarts are going to be crowded all over the place, especially when vaccines become more widely available in the United States to like the general population. That's going to be huge. And then, Rich, to your point, this is good news for Walmart, provided they roll this out appropriately and do a good job. But you're getting more and more people in the door that maybe didn't go to Walmart before. Right. Maybe they went to their local grocery stores instead, and now they need to go into Walmart to get their vaccines. Kind of brings them in through the door. I also read that Walmart is investing like $14 billion in their e-commerce platform. So they're really trying to focus on really reaching out to the broader market and getting people to shop with them, really. So good stuff.
Get them in the door while they're there. Might as well grab some avocados, some toast, some bananas, some food. Let's move on. All
right, so number 5 here, we have NASA released new images of Perseverance rover that just landed on Mars. So this is something that they released within the last week or so. They launched a new rover to Mars. It's like $1 billion rover or something, like really expensive. This was a huge thing by NASA, and they now have colored pictures of the rover at Mars. And not only that, this rover has a new technology that was not previously used on any other rovers, which is a little helicopter drone. So it has the ability to take flight. They're kind of like piloting and testing this out on this new rover where it takes flight, can survey the land and stuff like that, and then send the images back. This is the first flight drone that is being introduced into space to like one of these rovers. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Headline number 6. Downloads of the 8 most popular dating apps increased 7.4% annually in quarter 4, and time spent using them actually rose 13.4% according to the Wall Street Journal. Now, less premium users though, that didn't really spike. They're seeing we have less of these people who are actually paying for this because people just can't afford during these times. Obviously, Bumble, we saw that pop 63% last week. I don't know what it's at now. But once the pandemic is over, that's where I'm thinking this could be interesting because now your dates could start going into restaurants. Like, pre-COVID, before you're talking to all these different people, you're meeting them out and whatnot, you're going in the restaurant, you're spending money. Before it was like, now I'm bored, I guess I have time, I could go on my phone to look, but I'm not actually going in any places like that. So I'm interesting. Do we start to see, after this come out, like these apps increased? Are they going down? But regardless, the restaurant business I think is definitely going to be booming because that's where people are going, the bars, the entertainment, the movies, things like that. I think that's going to help bolster by using this, taking your date to those places. But I don't know then, does the app start to peak down? Because we see the increase on it now, but that's because you could only stay at home.
Sure.
I mean, do we see them sort of take a slight trickle down?
I think it's no surprise that we saw like these dating apps, increase in volume of their users because it's COVID, right? What else is there to do but to go on Tinder and start swiping? And like, you can't go out to the bars, you can't go out and meet people socially. At least if you do, it's in limited capacity. So it's no surprise to see these bump up. And if you're a stock investor, is it too late to get into these? I think maybe. And obviously once stuff starts opening back up and people can go out, I think they're not going to see those users stick around. But that's just me.
Yep.
Number 7, we have some news on Roku. So Roku could be creating original content and shows after acquiring Quibi's content library last month. So they made a huge investment. They got Quibi's entire content library. If you haven't heard of it, check out the link. Yeah, they got it really, really cheap. And now they're rolling around the idea of creating original content, kind of like Netflix does. And we've seen how successful that has been for Netflix and Hulu. So Roku's really trying to get in there and kind of compete with them as a content streamer and not just a platform where you can watch stuff, which I think is a really great move. Rich, how do you feel about that?
No, I 100% agree. I think it's a great move. Roku, the Roku TV, that's it. Like, it's a Roku. Do you have the Roku TV? Like, there's not that many TVs that have that built-in. There are, right? They have that built-in capability where you can have your apps on there, and I'm sure. But like, that is a staple. And I think if you're going, you know what I mean? Like, you go into Walmart or if I have the Roku TV, it's fine. So I think by having this, if they could use that content from Quibi and they could do something where to even just enhance their Roku, because right now, if you go to Roku TV, you can get free content. It gets there. Sure. But now I think this is going to make it exponentially even more intriguing for someone to actually come across if they could market it right. And then you might be seeing the TV sales spike, Roku sales spike. I think it's a really good move if they could perfect their library of what they have. Because Netflix right now, for me personally, right, that is their originals they're good. They're awesome, good. Their TV, so it's just like that's your competition. Even Hulu has them, but I don't go to Hulu to look for originals. I mean, unless someone maybe recommended to me. So, but I think this it might bolster them up because I know on the Quibi, their content, they had a lot of good stars on there. Yeah. I mean, obviously it failed. So if they play their cards right, I think it's a good move.
I will say, though, that Roku's getting into a very competitive space of the streaming services. I mean, they got to compete with Netflix. They got to compete with Hulu. They got to compete with Disney Plus. And look what Disney Plus did. I mean, they rolled out a streaming platform that was hugely successful within like a year. You also have Apple as a big player in the game. And now Roku's trying to scheme their way in there and get a little bit of that market share. So we'll see how that plays out at some point in the future. Yeah. But Rich, what we got next?
100%. 8. January retail sales increased thanks to the latest stimulus payments. Now, my thought on this was two things: yay or nay.
Yay.
Retail sales increase. Yay, the economy's doing good. People are out there, they're starting to spend again. Nay, to the point of, is that what our stimuluses were for? Were our stimuluses to go out there and spend to bolster and spike the economy? Or was it so we could make sure we have a place to stay, for our safety and security? The people were like, government, help me out because I'm so broke right now, or I don't have the money, I lost my job, this, and this. So when we see this data, which one is better? I don't know. I mean, yes, I'm happy that the economy is growing, but at the same time, I didn't think that's what that was for. I thought that was more for us. And then if you look at the other coin, the people who didn't use it, most people saved it. So they're putting it in their savings account. And I think it was like 30%, I can't be sure on the exact percentage, but with the stimulus payments, like this is the most people are saving money ever. So obviously it just goes to show you that those people didn't need that money, but those were also the people that were in a different economic status, like a class, where they didn't lose their job. They didn't have to, fight for that. A lot of the people, they were on that lower status that lost that job, those minimum wage workers and things like that. So I don't know. It's interesting news for me, because I'm like, it was just sort of question. I'm like, was that a good thing or not?
Right.
So is that what the stimulus packages were for?
I mean, I kind of feel like it's a little bit of both, right? The whole point of like the government providing this money out through these stimulus checks is to get money to people who really need it, right? People who are really struggling, but also as another plus, you're injecting money into the economy, right? And it shows as January sales increased. So that is a positive.
Yeah, retail was the key word there. Yeah. Like it wasn't like groceries or it was retail. So clothes and things like that. I mean, I guess if you needed clothes, but at the same time, we shouldn't be going out there and buying Gucci, Louis.
Right. The important thing is that money's being spent and it's kind of a little bit of a boost to the economy. So that's good. I know there's still a lot of people who are having trouble out there, which kind of brings us into our next topic here, which is that Biden extends foreclosure moratorium, mortgage forbearance through June. This is where your lender allows you to pause or reduce your payments, but it does not erase what you owe. So on the federal level, it sounds like Biden kind of is extending this program so people might not be getting kicked out of their houses. Foreclosures may be paused a little bit, and you may be able to defer your payments, essentially, which I think a lot of people really need help with that right now. So I think this is a great federal program to extend. But then it kind of brings up the question, like, when do you stop it? Is this just something that's going to go on forever? Like, when can people start needing to take like the responsibility for their own financial situation, and kind of like when does the government help stop?
Well, so in through June. So throughout June, people they can extend their foreclosure moratorium, and then which means they're not going to get kicked out. Right. That's a good thing. Why is that important? Because if you can't get foreclosed, that means that it's not going to damage your credit score. Because if you foreclose, it kills your credit. Like, where are you going to go? So that helps there. And the mortgage forbearance also too is if you can't afford to make a payment, you can work with your landlord. There are documents that you have to fill out, and you have to show that I can't meet this. I don't know what those are. I haven't looked at those documents, but you can, through this link, you could find that. But they don't just stop. Like, you have to make those up. So they still happen. Yeah. And if June comes, now you owe a lot of things. You have to work out, how am I going to have that payment plan and things like that. So that's the biggest thing. It's not like it's you're done. You don't have to make those payments. There are some things to do. But what Biden did is he extended that through June. So if you do fall into that situation, it gives you a little buffer of how can I start accumulating this money to make those payments if I need to stop right now.
Sure. What we got next?
Last but not least, at least for our top 10, after a decade, Joann Fabric is once again going public. And I wanted to throw this in there because, okay, it makes sense. Sure.
This is cool.
It capitalized on the pandemic. That's what it did. DIY trends. Arts and crafts. Custom mask making, stay-at-home stuff. So, and many customers are actually younger. They're buying actually sewing machines and materials for the first time, which to me, I'm just not interested in that. So I was like, that's my grandma stuff. Like, that's what I'm thinking of now. But no, like with this pandemic, the sort of shake up and do it at your home, those sales are increasing. So where do you go for that? I guess Joann Fabric. And they were able to capitalize off that. So they're going to go public. And we talked about this before too. Going public, everyone jumps aboard. Yeah, why not? Throw all my money in there. I'm rolling the dice, and hopefully I see everything else just skyrocketing. But my question is, okay, what happens after? Yeah. I get it. You're going to go public now, but after in 2 years, what happened? And obviously you went public before. And it looks like about 10 years ago, and then all of a sudden you stop. What's I don't know. So I'm thinking a long term, I don't know. I'm sort of scratching my head about that. But now, sure.
It's no surprise that all the arts and crafts and craft stores sales increased during the pandemic. Everyone's stuck at home. You want to find things to do with your family, making custom masks and stuff. That's awesome. So those are our top 10. For everyone who made it this far, we are now going to speed round through the next
our
10.
notable mention, the ones just didn't make the cut.
So back in 2012, for number 11, the FAA anticipated 30,000 drones would be operating by 2020, and boy, were they way off. According to the data from the government, there are at least 1.7 million registered drones in the U.S., and there are likely to be many more that are unregistered.
Yeah, I will say most of those are actually for personal entertainment use. Yeah, but yes, they're still out there. Number 12, guessing it is going to be Revel. The shared scooter startup is adding an e-bike subscription. I thought this was really cool because I'm a fan of e-bikes rather than scooters.
Awesome. I think that's a great thing they're doing. Number 13, Shell announced a plan to build 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations worldwide over the next 4 years, up from 60,000 today. So they are really ramping up production for the electric vehicle charging stations, which I like to see that. That's awesome.
14, LinkedIn is developing a new program to support content creators on its platform. I scratched my head. I'm like, content creators on LinkedIn? All right.
Hey, I think it's a dying breed, and they want to get back.
They need
cool
something
again. So that's awesome. Number 15, the ANA, Association of National Advertisers, recently found that more than 1/3 of marketers are still unclear on when business travels will return. I don't know. I'm not hip to the regulations and stuff, so your guess is as good as mine.
Number 16, Kroger's closing 2 more locations due to hazard pay laws. This time it's in Seattle. I think last time it was in California they shut 2 because we just don't want to pay, we can't afford to pay more than this. So I guess more stores are closing.
To me, that does not look good for the company, but who knows? Number 17, Tesla has trimmed the prices of entry-level Model 3s and Model Y vehicles. The Model 3 starts at $36,990, down from $37,990, so a $1,000 decrease. And the standard range Model Y price tag has dropped $2,000 to $39,990. So Tesla's trying to be more affordable. I'm all for it. Good job, Tesla.
18, TikTok parent company, which is ByteDance, is in the early talks to list on the New York Stock Exchange.
That's awesome. I'm all for TikTok parent company going public, so good for them. Right. Number 19, JetBlue and American Airlines started jointly selling flight tickets yesterday. Their partnership, first announced in July, is still being investigated by the DOJ and state attorney generals, but it looks like their partnership won't be good for both of them. So, that's awesome.
And number 20, we have is a COVID update. So the U.S. has now administered over 61.3 million vaccines nationwide, with the number of citizens having received 2 COVID vaccines just under 18 million.
We're making progress.
We're making progress,
According to a Bloomberg report, the U.S. is administering 1.5 million doses per day on average. This was data pulled from last week, so they're really ramping up those vaccinations, 1.5 million every day. Also, they reported that the U.S. is expected to double its COVID vaccine supply in the upcoming weeks and months. So the U.S. is really trying to ramp up production and get people vaccinated.
Absolutely. And that wraps up this week's episode. So we hope you enjoyed your morning coffee. Tune in next week to see what news is brewing. In the meantime, don't forget to follow us on Facebook. Stay up to date with our current trends. And hit that thumbs up and subscribe button to really help support the channel. See ya.
That does it. See ya.